Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast that's a revelation. Because this week we watch The Categories of Life.
Written by Jane Espensen.
Directed by Guy Ferland.
And aired on August 5th, 2011.
Who is Guy Ferland and why doesn't he have a Wikipedia page?
Maybe it's a pseudonym for, oh no, for some reason I was thinking the guy who created Family Guy was Guy McFarland, but it was actually Seth MacFarlane.
Guy McFarland?
Yeah.
So I don't know why that's funny, because it's not really.
Yeah, Guy can be a name. It started as a name, is Guy Fawkes, is what it's from, the word.
I mean,
I know that.
Actually know a guy whose last name is Guy, so.
Yeah, it's like French or something.
Yes, he's French, so correct. Let's see, Guy Ferland is known for The Walking Dead. All right, well, that says everything I need to know. Oh, in the 1990 version of Flatliners, he was additional crew. Nice.
The highlight of his career.
Highlight of his career was probably directing the Dirty Dancing sequel / remake.
Yeah. There actually are some big name actors in this, or at least pretty prolific actors in not that big roles, I guess.
Yeah, it's on you this week, because last week I looked everyone up, so I guess it's on you. I only looked up Mark Van this week.
Oh, I only looked up him and Frederick Kohler or Collar, or however you pronounce it. But yeah, we'll get to them at the end, because first we have to go through what is probably the darkest thing that Doctor Who and the larger Doctor Who franchise has ever given us: the categories of life.
Right. And I guess a lot of TV reviewers, when reviewing this episode, based on what I was looking at, basically said that this was, a little too close to home on the they even call them concentration camps in the episode. But just a little on the nose with the people being burned alive in locked chambers and just everything about this whole situation.
Right. I mean, concentration camps, when you say that, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously the Holocaust in World War II. But obviously they've also been used throughout the rest of history. I mean, even here, like in the U.S., during that World War II era, there was concentration camps for the Japanese.
Yeah, it's not unique to either World War II or Germany. That just happens to be the most publicly known.
Right, and it is, and yeah, when you think about it in that sense, where it's like it does evoke the Nazis and stuff, then yeah, I mean, this episode for sure does, because yeah, the combination of the concentration camps and the incinerators.
The imagery is too difficult to ignore.
Yeah, for sure.
But we have to explain how we get there. So we open on Vera, actually. This is basically the Vera episode, and you'll find out why that is. So Vera is trying to meet with the symposium people, the panels, and I don't know how Vera, presumably a high-ranking member of these panels, didn't get the memo that they had been shut down, but she didn't get the memo that they've been shut down. So she goes in and the secretary's like, oh yeah, they've been shut down. So the government, the UN, we've decided on this category of life system.
Right. I forget if she explains it right now, but basically category 1 are the people who should have died. Mm-hmm. Category 3 are the people who are just fine. And category 2 are the people in between. And they deliberate, this throughout the episode, and they talk about it a lot, is what does category 2 even mean?
It's just a category for everyone who's not in the other categories.
Right.
That's at its base level, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Vera now decides to take matters into her own hands. This episode, really, more so than the ones before, but it's been a slow build, for sure, really endears you to her character, and, really puts her in the spotlight. She's getting things done. She's joining the Torchwood team and really putting things into motion, because what she does right now is she calls up Rex and says, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see where her character's going to go for the next couple of weeks.
You mean where it would have gone if she wasn't burned alive?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just, that was brutal.
Yeah. So, Gwen, when Vera is flying to LA, Gwen is simultaneously flying to Wales to try to see and hopefully rescue her dad.
But things aren't going according to plan because they've cordoned off and completely barred people from entering the camp.
Right. I think in Wales, the military has basically, so the Wales concentration camp, overflow camp is...
I mean, they are, we're probably going to slip and call them concentration camps, and that's really
like
what they are, so yeah.
Is, inside an aircraft hangar, and so basically they've got a posted guard at the gate/door keeping people out, and there's a huge crowd of people trying to get in to see loved ones or to understand why their kid or loved one has been taken there.
Yeah, there's a funny scene with Gwen going to her parents' house, I guess, and you see her and Reese walk in, and her mom, Mary, I think her name was, is there, and they're smiling and they're laughing, and Gwen and her mom have a few passive aggressive comments as they usually do between one another, but everyone looks fine and is like, wow, as soon as Geraint, or however you pronounce it, we've been pronouncing it wrong for the past however many weeks. It's actually
worst part of this episode, finding out we're pronouncing Geraint wrong.
Or what did you say?
So the way Gwen says it, she says groint. She says groint. That's how she says it, and it's like, what?
Yeah. Man, I really wish it was Geraint, though. I don't know. There's just something fun about the name Geraint, or just humorous about it.
I don't know. Maybe Geraint sharing the same first syllable as German might get a little weird.
I mean, he wasn't the one. He was in the camp. He wasn't the one running it.
Yeah, that's true. So,
but the reason why this scene was funny is they seem to be having a great time. As soon as oh my god, Geraint, as soon as he's out of the picture, they're just like, hell yeah, let's live it up, finally. But then you see that Gwen's mom has constructed this entire conspiracy wall.
Yeah, literally, they walk in and what the hell is with Mary's conspiracy wall?
I guess she was planning to try and get him out herself, but she ends up sending Gwen on this mission.
Yeah, they basically say something like, this is what Torchwood investigates, now go.
She can't get in. Even PC Andy, or Sergeant Andy now, can't get her in because, like we mentioned earlier, or a minute ago, the army is in control and the police can't do anything.
Yeah, they try to take him out under... What does Andy say? Something like police jurisdiction. And then we don't answer to the police here. So they come up with this plan, concurrently with the LA Torchwood team, basically, who come up with a similar plan to basically break in to the camps, or to go undercover.
Right.
So, in LA, Jack really wants to go, but no. He has a nice little conversation with Esther, because Esther basically asks him if he thinks she's useless or at fault for all of this, and he says, well, no, you're just inexperienced. And she says, well, I'm CIA. And he says, well, Rex is CIA too, and he's been screwing things up all week too.
Yeah, Rex has really been casting blame to divert attention off himself in a way.
People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, I guess. Or maybe they just shouldn't throw the first stone. Look, if someone else is throwing stones at your glass house and the house is broken already, what do you save by not throwing stones back?
Yeah, yeah, just covered in glass shards, just just sliced to pieces.
Okay, it's the Miracle Day universe, so you're still alive.
Yeah, like how those people who got incinerated are still alive, just piles of ashes, but still alive.
Are they? Like, I guess that's a question where it's going to be posed and maybe answered next week. But are they?
Yeah, I don't know.
Gone, reduced to ash. Thanos, 2019.
Oh my god.
No, wait, no, because those movies had a 5-year time. Never mind. So
They want to get
while
in.
this is going on, there's a miracle rally as well,
Yeah, and I don't know.
which becomes important.
I don't know why we never made this connection before, but Oswald Danes really resembles Trump in a way. Just the fact that he goes to these rallies and just his entire his mannerisms, his style of speaking, even his appearance, right? His the slick backed hair, which doesn't look as weird, but
That's true, but Trump never claimed to be the second coming of Christ himself. People just foisted that upon him, whereas Oswald Danes in this episode goes way off script and doesn't also outright claim to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, but does basically claim that this is a revelation from God.
Yeah, we'll get there. That's probably one of the more fascinating parts of the episode. He's this scene though, the one that initially where he sort of is introduced in this episode, where the first scene you see with him, he's going to this rally and there seems to be some dissenting opinion. There's people out there who are cheering him on and can't wait to see him, and there's people who aren't so pleased, to put it lightly.
Throwing things at him. Getting all up in his grill.
Yeah. Oswald doesn't deserve that. Well, no, actually, I'm just kidding. Maybe he does.
I mean, he hasn't exactly done anything to endear himself.
He hasn't exactly done anything good, as far as we know. Ever.
Well, yes. So the gang is doing some investigation, and Esther reveals that there are these modules that are on the plans that they stole from FICOR for all of the overflow camps, but don't appear on the satellite imagery. But then she is able to access NORAD and get the raw, undoctored images. And in those, they can see that they're basically former military installations that are being repurposed for something.
They don't know what, so they need to get in. And Rex is the perfect person for the job.
Yeah, interesting that what the modules are wasn't included in the, plans that they stole.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's you kind of find out why later. Not exactly, but you can imagine why that wasn't sort of put into writing or whatever.
So, yeah, Rex is the perfect person because, as he indicates, he's basically Category 2. But this is also when they pose one of the questions. They're like, well, I was Category 1 because I should have died, but now I'm alive and I'm living pretty fine.
Yeah, he even says that he's healed, which maybe was, I don't know, maybe, I didn't know if that was just a weird way of putting it, or if that was indicating that maybe people are healing just way, way slower, or something.
I felt like it was just a weird way to put it.
Yeah, probably. Either way, they call in the ambulance and Rex gets taken to the San Pedro facility.
Meanwhile, the plan is also for Esther to go undercover because they want someone else there with Rex to make sure he's not gonna die.
Well, he's not going to die, but yeah, just to make sure that he'll be fine. I guess.
Well, not gonna die seems to be a little relative now.
Yeah, again, I guess we don't know. I mean, there should be like some sort of fourth category, right, where you're just like reduced to ash or something.
Category 4, non-existent.
Yeah, just annihilated. Vera decides to go in with Esther though because she can use her connections or whatever to I don't know, just do what Esther could do but better or something like that.
Vera just wants to be involved.
Yeah, good on her, Good on her.
Well,
it's her undoing, but
yes.
but
yeah. So in Wales, Reese has a job as a driver at the overflow camp, and Gwen basically takes up an undercover identity as a nurse at the camp.
Yeah, she uses an actual alias slash pseudonym. I forgot what it was though.
It's the same alias that was on her fake passport, I guess, which I didn't write down for some reason. I did write down though, like, wouldn't Oswald Baines be like category 2 technically, or even category 1 because he should be dead?
Yeah,
I guess they're just letting him roam free.
Yeah, I mean that just goes to show you that like how like I don't know backwards the whole category system is, because they're not. I mean, we see that in the overflow camp later. They're not doing a good job categorizing anyone. They are letting Oswald just do whatever the hell.
Yeah, and like they say, like humans don't fit into categories.
Mm-hmm.
So to try and categorize all of them like this is misguided at best.
Yeah, and it's not working, as we'll see in just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think at this point Gwen does go into the camp and she finds her dad.
Surprise.
Yeah, I thought she was just gonna walk in, not be able to find him, and just be like, "Well, we tried."
Well, oh well.
Guess that's that. No, she finds him, and Reese shows up, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna get you out of here." And it just goes to show you too that like this is a weird scene because they're kind of making a bit of a commotion around his bed. And nobody's really doing anything. Nobody really thinks this is suspicious, and they actually make it almost all the way out, and probably would have if he hadn't started going into cardiac arrest. And it just goes to show you that, like, yeah, they're overworked doing something that is probably not to anyone's benefit. Obviously not to anyone's benefit with the whole incineration thing, but, like, even if you just... If this was being done how it should have been done, which is just the categorization part, like, that's probably not even to anyone's benefit. And... yeah, nobody even really notices when someone's getting literally walked out.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. I don't have anything to add to that because you covered pretty much everything I was going to say.
Back in California, though, they've infiltrated the camp.
And we meet Colin, who you immediately know is a bad guy because he's sexist as hell.
Yeah, what he has a bunch of comments just in a row of just like sexism, racism, and probably some other isms thrown in there as well.
She's like, "Hey, I'm here for the investigation." He's like, "Oh yeah, we're just waiting for Vera Juarez," and she's like, "That's me." And he's like, "Oh, you're I didn't expect you to be well, not like that. I don't think that woman can be like, it's great. Let's go on the tour." Yeah, pretty
much that, except he doesn't even really try and cover it up that much. He's just like, "Yeah, well." And this is Mark Van, who he's a pretty big actor. I'd seen him in other stuff at least, and that's a surprise because I barely watch TV. But like, yeah, and he has a distinctive, well, look obviously because he has that bald, head, but with the hair on the side, but also like a very distinctive acting style and voice. So like, he kind of fits into this role. Sad to say.
Also, it just gives you a really, like, slimy, uncomfortable feel the instant you meet him in this show. And you're just like, what's gonna happen?
Esther is there too, though, and she's keeping in touch with Rex.
Yeah, because Rex gets categorized as Category 2 when he comes in.
And you see the entire categorization process, which is basically some guy walking over and pinning a clip on Rex, just deciding right then and there, pretty much no testing or anything. And Rex even calls this out. He goes like, wait, that's it? You just slap a Category 2 pin on me and that's it? And the guy kind of goes off on him, saying that like he has 500 other patients to categorize and he can't spend as much time as he needs. Which is true. Like, I mean, he comes across in like a bad way, but like, yeah, what he's saying, like, he's just a victim of this system too, and also, you know, perpetrator of it.
Yeah, I mean, so is Coltrane. We also meet Coltrane, who is Vera and Colin's, I guess, military escort around the base. He doesn't have much to say for himself yet.
Right? Yeah, he has no idea that he's going to be a
an accessory to murder.
Just a couple of minutes.
Meanwhile, Jack, since they basically tell Jack he can't be involved in any of these operations because he's the only mortal man, and then Esther gives him a kiss on the cheek, and they're like, Esther-Jack romance? Interesting.
No, I don't think that's where it's going. Not at all.
Viewers, come back to this episode 5 weeks from now. Find out who was right. He decides to just go be creepy as hell.
Yeah.
And just lurk in corridors with, like, just out of sight of, like, just in sight, actually, of Oswald Danes, just lurking off to the side.
Danes recognizes him and starts chasing him, and he sort of... This is weird because usually the roles here would be reversed, right? Where it's sort of the villain kind of lurking in the shadows and the main character chasing him or something. But here it's like, it's the opposite. Mm-hmm. Almost giving it a sort of humorous like tone to it or something.
I don't even know if it's humorous. I think that plays into something I was going to bring up later, which is the like weirdly, incredibly uplifting and motivational music that plays when Oswald Danes is like making his speech.
Yeah, and like even the part where Jack goes, he says to Oswald how he can reveal Ficor and they can work together is like, obviously that's a sinister thing, right, because of who Oswald is, but at the same time that like is that whole scene, like the whole entire, like, I don't know, tenor of it is darker than when Oswald is like actually doing really suspicious and stuff with the whole speech.
Right. I mean, just like the whole thing is set up to almost portray Oswald as like in the right with the whole thing, and it's just so skeezy, it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
to
and
watch.
it makes you feel like you're kind of part of that universe too, where it's like Oswald is this hero and Torchwood are, they're not obviously known like Oswald, but they're on the run and they're, you know, they're doing the wrong thing.
It makes you feel almost like Torchwood does, where Jack and Gwen and everyone are like, are we crazy for like wanting to stop this?
Right.
Like, are we in the wrong?
Right. Yeah, it's a really weird effect.
Which they ask, often, like multiple times. They're like, are we crazy? Like nobody else seems to want to stop this. It takes Vera, like it takes the board being shut down and defining categories of life for Vera to come around.
Right. And I mean, when you think about it, obviously what we're getting, because like, you know, you can't really go into all the little details here. It's like, but for most people, the entire miracle might not have a great effect on their day-to-day life, you know? It's just like, all right, well, can't die now. Wasn't planning on it anyway. So...
Well, that plays into like what Jack's talking with Oswald. He's like, I know you just want to die. I know that you want this to be over so that you can die peacefully. And I can do that for you if you help me expose Ficor.
Yeah, and I think that scene is a little bit later, but might as well just discuss it now since we're already here. Like, Oswald is kind of a mystery, like, and he's just really this enigmatic guy. Like, I can't wrap my around him.
He's a bit of a wild card. You never know what he's gonna do. Picking up the mantle Owen dropped. Except like Owen was a way better for all the gruff we gave Owen. He's a way better person than Oswald.
Someone's bad and we're like, yeah, Owen Harper. He was way better.
So, the episode also does this really interesting thing, and it does it now, especially when Esther comes to recategorize Rex as Category 1, where the whole episode is almost like, seems to be setting you up to think that some great harm is going to befall Rex somehow, and that Rex is going to be the one who's going to be, I don't know, injured or tortured or something.
Oh yeah, for sure. And they do that like the found footage style like documentary thing where he's investigating the module later, and you're like, oh god, something awful is about to happen to him.
The like preview from last week lied to us because there was that footage of Gwen being like, if anyone sees this, just know we were trying to do the right thing, and that doesn't appear anywhere in this episode.
Yeah, media manipulation. Yeah, kind of the vibe that this episode gives you too, with what we were just talking about.
Kind of the vibe that Chris Chibnall just goes for, like when he's running the show now. Wonder if he took a page out of Russell T's book.
Wait, how does he do it?
Well, he just basically not even telling the media anything, and also the whole thing with the like Spyfall trailer being edited not to show Sacha Dhawan in that one scene.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Stephen Moffat kind of did it too, where he was like, someone's gonna die, like within the first 5 minutes of this season, or whatever that was.
That was such
Yeah, that's the thing, is like Stephen Moffat did it, but he did it in like a way more juvenile like way.
He was like, hey, got ya, the doctor died. Now you have to watch the whole season to find out how he gets out of this.
Pranked ya. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, if I ever ran the show, I would just I would do that and be like, someone dies, and then kill the doctor off, and at the end of the season actually just not even have them get out of it, just like have that actually be their death. They can regenerate, I guess.
Just make up some reason why the doctor like can't regenerate and just have them actually die. I wonder what would happen, like, I'm sure some higher up or some executive at the BBC or something, or whoever, would try and stop that if some showrunner actually tried to kill off the doctor for good.
Just do what they did on Star Trek when like Paramount was like, no, we can't like air this interracial kiss between Kirk and Uhura, and just like have the actors muck up every other take of the shot. So just write an alternate ending to the season where the doctor gets out of it, but just have the actors mess up every single take so that they're forced to go with the only good one where the doctor dies. And then like a couple of years later, you could just bring him back the same way they bring back the Master in like Sound of Drums. Where they like, there's that ancient secret ritual to bring back a Time Lord from the dead, I guess. Or just how they brought him back in
season 8, I think it was he...
Yeah, how he just showed up and unexplained. Yeah, honestly, just kill the doctor off 3 years later, just suddenly without big media fanfare, release a new season of Doctor Who. Don't even explain like how the doctor survived, but make heavy references, make heavy indications that confirm the doctor on screen is the next subsequent doctor.
Right, and that it's all taking place after. It's not like some out of chronological order thing.
Yeah, I wonder what the fandom would do, honestly, if the show did. Like, what would the fandom response be?
What was that? So I remember this as we were talking about all this. What was that Doctor Who serial where the extras were like, they were on strike, but they had to like record anyway, or they were upset at their rates or something like that.
Yeah.
They purposely ruined the story by like making their deaths funny.
I remember that. I don't remember what serial it was, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, if I can find it, I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, and I remember they had to line up to basically go to their executions, which is like a really dark thing, but they were like doing it with the biggest smiles on their faces.
They were all smiling. They were all like ready to go.
God, I wish I
jovial.
remember that which one that was, but I'll look it up and see if I can find it.
Jeez.
Anyway, at this point in the episode, Rex decides to go check out the module because I think they take him to the Category 1 area or something like that, and he just gets up and starts checking things out.
Mm-hmm.
And he finds these sort of, I don't know what you would call them. They're not like shipping containers, but they're these like sealed, they're incinerators as we find out later on, but they're these sealed rooms, I guess. And Rex doesn't know what they are, and he goes in and it's just awful inside. There's just people not being taken care of. They're packed to the brim. And he's just like, oh my God. And this is the part where you get the sort of found footage, because Rex is making like this Blair
Witch documentary.
Yeah, he's taking all this footage and narrating it.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, Vera is basically still trying to get Colin to take her to the secret areas.
Right. They name drop Hillary Duff here,
and Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, because Colin says they got Hillary to visit or something like that, and Vera's like, Hillary Clinton? Is like, no, Hillary Duff, a name I haven't heard since 2002.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton. Like, I was thinking about Hillary Clinton, and I was like, oh yeah, wait a minute. Like, Hillary Clinton was 2011. I think Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State in 2011. So yeah, that would have been a big.
I was talking about Hillary Duff, but yeah.
Oh yeah,
right,
no, but I was also thinking about Hillary Clinton. I was like, like, would she have also been relevant like at the time? Which yeah, I think she was Secretary of State in 2011. So yeah, she was.
Yeah, well, they're going around the camp, and Colin is making even more inappropriate comments.
Nice. I mean, they go into this one room where people are just, like, on the floor. Just some random storage room, and she's like, what is this? And he's like, these are all the people who don't have insurance.
Yeah. They go into an even further back room, and there's just, like, garbage. It's dirty laundry, I guess, basically everywhere. Mm-hmm. And Vera's like, oh, hell no. Like, this isn't gonna stand.
Cut to Gwen and Reese in Wales, and they find Geraint, and they're extricating him from the camp when he keels over and has another heart attack.
Right.
So Gwen has to call for help, obviously, because she's not actually a nurse.
Yeah, and they don't like do anything to them. Instead of punishing them in whatever way for breaking into the camp, they just enlist Reese to start driving for them because they're so understaffed. But they take Gwen's father away. I'm trying not to say his name because I just have no idea how to pronounce it now. Guess it doesn't matter for much longer. Haha. God. Wow.
Just double down on a pronunciation. Just pick a pronunciation and double down.
Yeah, I also like how before we even started recording, I was like, maybe we should like circumvent the dark humor that's probably going to arise during this episode. Here we are, half an hour later, just with all these jokes under our belts.
We're terrible. We're terrible. So, they take Geraint, and Reese has to drive him somewhere. Cut back to Vera in the most WTF shocking moment of the whole episode. Colin okay, first off, Coltrane, you're supposed to have the holster guard on, but I'll look past that.
I mean, he's just holding his gun, like, ready to go, loaded, safety off, like, just ready to fire.
Well, so he's like on the cart and he sees them go into this back room, so he follows them. And I guess he does draw his gun. I don't know why, but then Colin just snaps, okay? Because Vera's going in on him. Colin's like, I used to like work in the housing office before this, and I think I've done pretty well for myself. And she's like, you're basically like treating these people like crap. And he's like, no, I'm not. Shut up. And she's like, I'm going to prosecute you. And he's just like, all right, prosecute this.
I know. Just shoots her in both legs.
He shoots her in the shoulder too, and Coltrane just stands there staring at Colin wide-eyed like, what did you just do?
He basically just goes like, no, Colin, don't do this.
He goes, you need to have your story straight because those people are going to hear the gunshot. So Colin just grabs the nearby door and starts banging it, and he's like, it was just the door.
Yeah, and at this point in the episode, I was like, all right, we're not getting darker than this. Little did I know what I was about to witness in 10 minutes.
So Coltrane's like, what are you doing, Colin? Like, what are you doing? Like, you just killed her. And he's like, you don't understand. There is no murder now. There's no murder.
Which is exactly why they go to dispose of her body.
Yeah, exactly. They put her body in one of the modules. Well, she's still alive, obviously.
Yeah.
Put her in the module.
Rex...
Esther's trying to call her.
Right. And Rex is seeing all this happen because he's still in the area.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he doesn't see Vera get taken in, but he goes up to the door after. He's like, oh shit, Vera's in there.
Right. She gets dumped on the floor, and then they turn the incinerator on, and this is when you realize that it is an incinerator. And
he tells Coltrane to go back in the truck, and he'll walk back, and I'm like, oh no, what are you going to do? Like, what else could you possibly do? You're going to shoot her in the head now? Like, what are you going to do? Going to rape her? Turns out to be incineration. I also like the mild implication that if Rex had been, I don't know, maybe 1 minute quicker at walking up to the door, he could have opened it before Colin locked it to burn Vera.
Yeah, well, that's what this whole scene is, and why it's so, like, almost pornographically tragic, right? Where it's like... And like overly edgy or something, where it's like he walks up to the door right in time to not save her.
He sees her burning alive and then films it for his live leak video.
Right.
Or I guess his WikiLeaks video, because we find out in this episode that they've been using WikiLeaks to find out information.
Yeah, WikiLeaks was a big deal in like 2010, 2011, so... Probably still is.
I think WikiLeaks still exists.
It does, yeah. It's just not really in the news as it was in the time.
I mean, it was a big thing in the 2016 election cycle because that's where all of Hillary's emails were published.
Yeah.
You know, the like, but her emails argument that like got us 4 years of the greatest president to ever exist. Sarcasm, obviously. So, at the same time, Gwen in Wales, Reese calls in and is like, yeah, I just, had to clean some ash, had to clean some burn victims. And Gwen's like, what? They've made incinerators. Right, they're burning them. She
figures it out, and in another very edgy moment, she's like actually watching the smoke come out of the smokestacks.
Yeah, so Gawain's dead, I guess.
Probably.
I guess we don't know. It would be a pretty big 1-2 punch if he was also dead. But kind of weird also for the second episode in a row to end with like Reese telling Gwen some sort of bad information about her father.
Yeah, guess you have to up the ante in some way, So now he's getting incinerated. God.
Meanwhile, Oswald Danes is on stage proclaiming the second coming, how we've all now risen from death and are now immortal thanks to the grace of the Lord and the revelation that is Ficor.
Right. Jack confronts him with a speech that he prepared, and he asks him to join with Torchwood and reveal what Ficor has done. And you think Oswald is going to do it. And he starts off fumbling, and he's trying to go according to script, but he's just this wild card. He's just this guy who does better when he's off script.
Better.
Yeah, better in quotes. I mean, definitely a more compelling speaker when he's off script. But it's like, he is interesting because he doesn't. You get the impression that he is not giving the speech that Kitzinger wanted him to give, but he's sort of roping that what Jack gave him in and kind of propping up Vicor as these and sort of deifying them or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he basically says, we're angels now, or he mentions the great leap forward, the evolutionary leap or whatever, and he's like, we're living through the next one.
Where we're immortal now, I guess.
All while propping up Vicor, so there you go.
It's a little weird tying this religious symbolism to this pharmaceutical company.
Right, especially when this episode very heavily, not hints because we already knew, but reminds us, I guess, that Vicor has ulterior motives, or whoever's behind this has ulterior motives. And maybe Vicor is just another pawn in the game.
I think they are, because we skip to the scene with Jilly Kitzinger where she gets confronted by this blue-eyed man. That's how he's credited in the credits, blue-eyed man, who basically says, you're being noticed by the right people. And that's good. And she's like, good.
Yeah, she's kind of a wild card too. Like, anyone else would be creeped out by this, but she's just like, yeah, I mean, I guess she just sees this as an enigmatic leg up for her or something.
She's making a power grab.
Yeah.
And that's how the episode ends. Yeah, we're in the trenches now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it, in my personal opinion. This is the darkest thing that any Doctor Who or Doctor Who adjacent material has ever provided that I've seen.
Yeah, who killed JFK basically turning, just the story literally raping Dodo. I think it was Dodo.
God, I don't remember
might
that.
Be up there.
I mean,
we never read it. We never read it.
I don't remember hearing about it ever.
I just remember reading about it because of the controversy.
Yeah.
I think that's probably
it's up there at least.
I think it was Dodo. Anyway, one of the female companions gets raped in that story, or is involved in some sort of non-consensual something.
God.
Oh yes, here we go. The book is further notable, perhaps even infamous, for a subplot involving the attempted rape, near wedding, and murder of former companion Dodo Shapley.
Jesus. Well, there was a book too about Perry's. It was like Perry's stepfather molested her, or I know we brought this up before.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, this is definitely in the top 5. Definitely at the top of the list too.
Yeah,
I mean, I have difficulty deciding between this and Jack killing his own grandson to remove aliens who use kids for drugs from Earth. I go back and forth between which of those two is darker.
For some reason, though, that was really dark, but for some reason, this comes across as really edgy dark, and that didn't for me. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because there's so much at once, right? There's this racist, sexist guy who then shoots Vera and incinerates her. There's the whole thing with Gwen. There's Oswald Danes propping himself and others up as angels. And there's just so much dark and edgy stuff that it's almost overkill.
I mean, I think it's because this one feels more, to use the
verisimilitude.
The verisimilitude of this episode, of this story is higher than Children of Earth. Children of Earth was a story heavily dependent on your belief that an alien species would come to Earth and only want kids. The only conceit of this episode is that people don't die, but the thing is, even the things that we're seeing in this episode still happen today when people do die, just turned up to 11 now that people are immortal. And maybe that's why it hits a little harder home.
Yeah, maybe.
Harder home, yeah.
Yeah, hits home a little harder or something like that. Yeah, why was there no, I mean, I know why. This is a rhetorical question, but, like, why was there no outrage against Vera's death, and why was there for Ianto's? Like, I feel more attached to Vera than Ianto, to be perfectly honest.
Ianto had 2.5 seasons to get fans. Vera had 5 episodes.
I know, yet still.
I mean, whether you were more attached to Vera or Ianto, that's on you, I guess. That's not that's not
I know. I'm just being a contrarian just for the sake of it. Although I do actually think that I was actually more attached to Vera as a character than I ever was to Ianto.
I mean, Vera just does more in her first 5 episodes than Ianto does. Guess you could argue that over the course of Ianto's span, he does more, but in the first 5 episodes...
But it feels like less, because so much of it is just like grabbing a coffee for Jack or something.
Those were
like that.
important coffees. England would fall without those coffees. Cups of coffee.
Coffees, yeah. Coffees is an actual... Yeah, it's just... It exists in that... Coffees is like the category 2 of plural words. Like, you don't know if it is one or not, you know? Like...
I mean, I guess because coffee is more of a modifier than anything. You know? Like, coffee bean, cup of coffee.
Maybe, yeah. I have no idea.
Okay, I just Googled it, and the noun coffee can be countable or uncountable. In more general contexts, the plural form will also be coffee. However, in more specific contexts, the plural form can also be coffees. E.g., in reference to various types of coffees or a collection of coffees.
So it can just be anything. That's basically what it just says. It can just be anything. You can say whatever you want. So that's why I'm going to start saying fewer coffee now. Would you like fewer coffee? I know you never say that, but like, yeah.
Oh, I guess like if you say, I have a lot of coffee, you wouldn't say like, I have a lot of coffees.
You could, but you could.
I guess.
No, technically you could say anything. And, you know, if you're a native speaker of English, you could just say anything. And there's a native speaker can never be wrong about their own language. So.
I mean, unless you're in France and the government says no, that's not how you say that word in French. Le email. Le email was the example, like in class, we would always say like le email. Just because, like, why wouldn't you say it like that? But the, like, French bureau, I think, has, like, some other complicated word for it. It's like, shoot, I don't remember the word for mail, but basically directly translates for, like, mail that is electronic.
Yeah.
Like, why would I say that? I'll just say le email. Everyone's gonna know what I'm talking about. Anyway.
Well, I frankly didn't have much to say on this episode other than pointing out how edgy it was. And yeah, I'm liking this story. I'm enjoying it. I know a lot of people out there don't and didn't, but I'm enjoying it.
Trust your doctor. Ever the contrarians. No, I'm enjoying it as well. And I think so far the story hasn't lagged. It's 10 episodes long, which is really easy to put in things or to drag it out. And so far it seems like every episode has had a specific purpose. You know, LA was when they stole the server. Categories of Life is when they find out what the overflow camps that they learn about in LA were for. The reason they go to LA is because in Dead of Night they find out that FICOR is in charge. They're in the US because in Rendition they get taken to the US. Like, it doesn't feel like, to me, maybe Rendition was a little overlong and took place entirely on the airplane, but in general, it feels like every episode has its purpose so far in like the plot that exists. Each episode is a step that is necessary.
And they're breaking things up by having each episode sort of have its own mission, its own goal, yet also tying into the larger, thing. And further mixing that up with different characters having their own, because for example, in this episode, there's the whole Oswald thing. That fits into his larger story, yet his whole thing in this episode is he has to give this speech and nobody knows what he's going to do, and it seems like he himself doesn't even know what he's going to do. And then, of course, there's the breaking into the camp thing that they have to do in this episode, which is very much like this episode's kind of story, I guess. That ties into the larger one, but is contained within these 50 minutes or however long it is.
There's also something interesting I wanted to briefly touch on with like the religious symbolism of Oswald using religious wording, religious prose, allegory, when talking about Ficor and the miracle and Miracle Day. I mean, even calling it a miracle is the connotation with the word miracle is religious. But just like the symbolism of Ficor being considered this religious being or this religious event happening, and contrasting that with like basically purging the non-believers with fire at the overflow camps, the ones who made use of the miracle and should have been dead, like purging them with fire.
Right, and even like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, with the whole Nazi imagery, like that's why people were being incinerated is because of religion. So, well, one of a few different reasons.
Right. I mean, the most well-known reason that the Nazis were exterminating people was they were
Jewish.
Yeah. But it's not the only reason. But like, I don't know, the like holy fire is a big thing in certain sects of Christianity too. So like that also, like the symbolism of that playing in somehow is very interesting, the whole thing. But also like, again, the like inversion also with it not being the religious people who are being burned in this, like in the Holocaust, where now it's like comparing Ficor to this religious being is almost like the people with the religion are in power now. So that's very interesting that this episode is doing.
Yeah, and they also connect it to, or Oswald actually rather connects it to, I don't know why he just had the Great Leap Forward just offhand, like that was just his thing, but like he also connects it to a scientific background where he talks about the Great Leap Forward, which is another fold in there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, that's another interesting theme that this season seems to be touching on, the like conflict between science and religion. That all playing together somehow, and how they work together rather than against each other. And that was something we talked about a lot in our forthcoming, at some point, episode on the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of almost, if I remember correctly, that was kind of a tangent on that episode, because even well, actually, no, it wasn't, because the second one had that.
The second one is all about CERN and the antimatter. And
yeah, but on that episode, we talked about how, like, it wasn't necessarily, like, a bad thing for, like, like, science and religion didn't necessarily have to be in conflict with one another, like, as you just said. But here, it's like, it is, like, they're using it for, like terrible purposes, like, Which is, yeah, I mean, it's edgy.
I mean, they're wielding this power. They're wielding both the religious power they've been given and the scientific power. If we assume Ficor started the miracle, or whoever is above Ficor, are wielding that scientific power as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're a pharmaceutical company that produces painkillers that are like that they're making bank off of. So that's their that is like they're definitely wielding that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, yeah, that Jesus would be against that. It's interesting that this is all coming around to this like religious sort of turning Oswald Danes into this mega pastor and this whole religious symbolism. When we started the show with this, it started almost as a joke segment, the 7 Deadly Sins of Gwen, but like it started as a joke, but it started as a joke that like became of a tangent from what that episode was doing. Everything Changes, that is. and bringing it all back around now to the end with this whole themology of theology.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat really never could get away from, not that they were trying to, but they really never could get away from the whole religious angle, even on Doctor Who.
Which is interesting because they never really went for it either. You know, the Doctor as a character who dies and is reborn is like such an obvious parallel that you can make to like Jesus, but they never actually, or not even just Jesus, that's just the first that comes to mind, but like a religious figure who is resurrected, but they never actually go that far with it, even though they could very easily.
There were some pretty, I mean, yeah, I guess they never did the Doctor. But the show overall, it kind of had that vibe to it. And it was always, you know, the sort of Christian thing, right, too, where you could easily, you know, make those parallels with the Doctor and, you know, stuff from Buddhism or something like that. So, I don't know.
So, and that's just all I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else, so we can probably just jump into our segments then. And
yeah, the 7 deadly sins of Gwen. What does she commit this week?
I had her with wrath and pride.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Wrath and pride.
Yeah, she definitely gets pretty mad, gets pretty wrathful, if that's even a word, with enraged, enwrathed. Wrathed out.
Wrathed out, boys.
She gets mad at the people not letting her into the overflow camp, and she definitely displays pride when holding her daughter.
I mean,
how dare she?
Yeah, how dare she? Shocking, her own daughter. Like, how could she be proud of her? Like,
you need to be neutral and objective, okay? no, you know, caring for or loving your children allowed.
Wow.
Children of Earth, 2009. Children of Earth was 2009, right? Oh god, I can't even remember now.
Yes. No, yeah. No, it was. Miracle Day was 2011.
Yeah, well, that I knew. I mean, I remember not being able to die in 2011, so that kind of sucked. No, I'm just kidding. It was actually great.
Wow.
How affected should Jack be? Probably very, although I don't think we're going to see the effects of that, given that Oswald...
He wasn't really like personally involved with a lot of the people or the things in this episode, including Vera.
Vera did die though, so he might be a bit affected by that. Plus, Oswald just like commandeered his speech and used it for like bad.
Yeah. He seemed pretty shaken up at the end there, but also not surprised that Oswald Danes of all people would go back on like his word that he didn't even give him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh well. British part of America. Mine this week was just like drawing the differences between the Wales camp. How they're all in basically one big room because they've got the NHS, and Andy says like the NHS is going to collapse, you know, within a week. And then cut to America where they're like, these are the people without insurance in the back room. We just leave them back here with the dirty washing.
Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't even like really have one this week. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry to say.
Well, that's all right. I forgive you. I absolve you of your sins.
Some religious imagery in the podcast. It wouldn't be imagery, I guess, because it's just audio.
It could be audio imagery. I mean, it's still imagery if you read it in a book, right?
Yeah. but maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe
Okay,
that's
what do you
wrong.
think it should be then, sir?
I don't know.
Since you're the expert, the authority.
I don't know. Sonority or something.
What?
That's a word. I don't know like what it means. I think it means like just related to sound. I don't know. I'll look it up right now. The quality or fact of being sonorous. There we go.
Great. That's like one of those recursive definitions. And it'll be like
It's
sonorous.
perfect.
That'll be like having sonority.
Having sonority, yeah.
Like, okay, sure. I mean, you're not wrong, I guess.
There we go. Religious sonority.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Let's do Britain's 10 actors.
All right. Well, why don't you start since you looked up the more famous and prominent in the episode of the two, and as did I, but I looked up someone else as well. So,
All right, my boy Mark Van grew up in Virginia and is also the subject of my Amazon X-Ray Fun Fact of the Week that I saved for now because it was more apt for now anyway. So he apparently grew up, when he grew up, he used to zoom around on speedboats with fellow actor Eric Schultz. Woo! Amazon giving us bangers week after week. Just how did we live without Amazon before?
he actually, I looked him up on IMDb, and he actually has an interesting background because he didn't start acting until later in life. He was apparently earning his MBA, and he took a mime workshop, and that's what eventually led him to acting.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to go about it, I suppose. To get from A to B. Anyway, he's been in, his biggest role was Spider-Man 3. He's also been in Mel Gibson's Payback, and then, like, basically all the CSIs, Criminal Minds, Monk, Lost, Grey's Anatomy. Like, pick a daytime TV show in the U.S., and he's probably been on NCIS, Boston Legal, so...
He was
and
in
Angel.
He was in yeah. There you go. He was in Malcolm in the Middle too. I remember him in one of the episodes.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've never watched Malcolm in the Middle, but I have it written down yet. So there's Mark Van for you.
All right. Well, I had Frederick Kohler or something playing. Oh God, what was his character's name? Now I don't even remember.
Was
Ralph.
he the blue-eyed man? Oh, Ralph.
It was Ralph.
Coltrane?
Yes, Ralph Coltrane.
Yeah.
He has 92 credits on IMDb, so he's a pretty prolific guy. I mean, I'm just going through them now. He started acting in the early 80s. When he was like 5. So he was definitely a child actor there, and I guess just never stopped. But yeah, he's been in a lot of famous shows. CSI, he was in. I'm just going through now. Yeah, just crime and police shows, I guess. NYPD Blue, Oz, the TV show Oz. Yo, he was in Malcolm in the Middle too. Wow.
The TV show Oz that I'm looking at wasn't about the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, it was about oh God, what was
Prison.
it? Yeah.
Oswald State Correctional Facility. I mean, there were allusions to the Wizard of Oz in it, but
yeah, he was in CSI, NY, Boston Legal.
nice.
Oh, hey, he was in Dexter. He played a neighbor in Dexter. And he was in Lost. Oh man, he was in Death Race 2.
Great.
Law and Order LA, Grimm, Criminal Minds, CSI Cyber. I've never heard of that one.
Oh man, I've heard of that one. That was the really crappy one that was about the cyber crimes unit, and they, like, I don't know, what I heard was 3 episodes in, they immediately were like, wait, how do you make a whole show based around just the cyber crimes unit?
A lot of the actual other CSI episodes are about, like, cyber crimes, but not fully online crimes, just, like, parts of the crime are online, you know?
Yeah, CSI Cyber was like, you know, like identity theft.
Mm-hmm.
Or like stealing someone's bank account.
Right.
Great. Awesome. It was also like I think it was made after Scorpion made it really big, which was a similar show over on CBS that was allegedly based on the real life exploits of some like hacker philanthropist of some sort. And then apparently, like immediately after the first season, people were like, "No way! Like no."
It was probably just like every movie that says based on a true story, where it's just like based on a true like concept or like.
I mean, it might be like Fargo, which I don't know if you've ever watched Fargo the movie, but Fargo the movie and the TV show actually borrows this conceit from the movie. The movie's like, this is true, everything that happened is true, and we changed all the names. But then the Coen brothers, the directors, later were like, yeah, none of it happened. We just combined a bunch of stories we liked and then just wrote it. And we put that conceit at the beginning because people are more likely to believe something they think is true than not.
You could just say like based on a true story and then be like, yeah, it was based on another story that was real, and that story exists.
I mean, there are clearly parallels between the story of Fargo, the movie, and like real cases that happened in that area. Not at the time that the movie is set, but yeah, the Coen brothers basically said it's not actually based on any one case. They just put that there because more people would like buy into the world of the movie if they thought it was real immediately off the bat. By being told that it was real, which it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked.
I read this book once called Libra, or I don't know.
Libra.
It was about this like it was about how the assassination of Kennedy was like an inside job and something. So it wasn't that it was weird and like not really that interesting. But like it had the weirdest like disclaimer. It came at the end of the book. I don't remember exactly what it was, but if I can find it, I'll put it in the show notes. But it had like. It was at the very end where it was like, it said like, and remember kids, like all this wasn't real, like this wasn't real, but it said it in like a really weird way. I don't know. I don't remember, but it was odd.
The movie Detroit kind of did that, where there's a disclaimer before the movie that's like, this is based on a true story, this is real. And then at the end of the movie, right before the credits roll, it goes, by the way, we don't actually know what happened inside this house. This movie was constructed by like secondhand accounts. And I'm like, wow. Anyway, no emails this week, sadly.
We did have a few Facebook comments, I believe. Here we go. So this is a comment on the episode Dead of Night from Alex. So Alex goes, "Oh, my sweet, sweet summer child. Wait until you get to the Virgin New Adventures and Eighth Doctor Adventures. Granted, I can't think of one that outright featured a child rapist, but they went very dark places." And this was in response to me saying that Dead of Night was probably the darkest Doctor Who, or Doctor Who adjacent, as I always say now, had ever been. And that was Alex's response. So, yeah, I mean, I can't wait, I guess, to get to some of those Eighth Doctor stories. Yeah.
We will on the podcast eventually. Eventually.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. If you'd like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decadentvegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, and grants, love letters, your thoughts on No, I don't want to ask that. Has Doctor Who gone as dark as it ever has, or will ever go? You can find us on YouTube at Decadent Vegetable. You can find us anywhere you find podcasts at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you liked this show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. Next time we're going to be watching The Middlemen, but until then, the end.